Hello and welcome everybody. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to become one of the most deadly huntresses in Dead by Daylight. Whether you're a complete beginner or an advanced player, you've come to the right place. If you're looking to become a beast of a huntress, I've got you covered. Oh, bro, look at that snipe. Since this is an in-depth guide for Huntress, I have provided timestamps in the description below for easy navigation, so feel free to use them if you need to. Huntress is a pretty straightforward killer to understand, although in practice, she's pretty hard to get the hang out of. You can always learn new shots with her no matter how many hours you've sunk into her. And that's one of the things that keeps her really interesting. She's a tall lady. She can be really easy for survivors to keep track of on certain loops. She also has this lullaby that can be heard by survivors for a total distance of 45 meters, even if you do go undetected. On a positive note, the Huntress's terror radius, aka the heartbeat, is only 20 meters, making it shorter than the average 32 meters, meaning she could sneak up on survivors sometimes when they're waiting for the heartbeat to pop up. Let's take a look at her hatchets. The Huntress starts off the game with 7 hatchets, and depending on the distance of the survivor, you could choose either to throw without fully charging the hatchet, or charging the hatchet fully. When you don't fully charge the hatchet, this is referred to as a lob shot, covering less distance, moving slower, and also giving your hatchet more of an arc. This type of shot can be very useful in hitting survivors behind objects or in some hard to reach areas. Here are some examples of lob shot. On the other hand, we have the fully charged hatchet throw, which you can get when you hold the hatchet up until you hear this sound, that I like to call the schling. Fully charged hatchet throws allow you to hit targets from a much longer distance, as well as making your hatchets move much quicker, which in return are also a lot harder for the survivors to dodge. Now, before we get to the aiming techniques, let's first find the center of your screen. Alright, now let's talk about how to aim at hatchets without using crosshair. First, you can line up your shots by using the letter W from the word throw at the bottom of your screen. Referring to this point will help you imagine a line to the center of your screen. For the second line, now imagine a second horizontal line from the tip of your axe going across your screen. Now you might find this tedious in the beginning, but as you practice more, you'll find out that you'll eventually build up that muscle memory. You'll be able to hit your hatchets dead center every time. I wanted to mention quickly that crosshairs are not bannable in Dead by Daylight, and they can also be a great way to get the feel of the center of your screen. If you don't have a monitor with an inbuilt crosshair, you can also use a small piece of tape. Heck, I've even heard of this guy that once used a Fruit Loop. Alright, let's talk about sensitivity for a little bit here. You really shouldn't overthink this one. All you have to do is make small adjustments until you find that you're precise enough at long range, whilst not going down too low to the point where it's hard to hit survivors and they're up close to you, or it's impossible to do a moonwalk. I would simply recommend going down by about 5%. 5% is all you need, and then try that out for a few days. If you find that it's too fast, then go down another 5%. And no matter what you do, just don't get too obsessed with it and start changing your sensitivity every day. It's not going to help you out. So you're not going to let your muscle memory catch up. Snipe. Oh, the down. There we go. All right. So FOV, field of view. Now this one's pretty simple. You can change your field of view by going into the settings tab. And inside the beta, you will find the FOV slider. Now, all this does is change your perception, basically how far out you can see to the sides. And it kind of changes, in my opinion, the perception of the speed of the character models. But honestly, I used 91 because of the orbital trick that I will explain later in the video. Feel free to test it out and use whatever feels better for you. There are a lot of ways to play Huntress. Typically, the way most people play Huntress is where they have a build where they passively slow down generators, and they can focus on chases with perks such as Corrupt Intervention, Pain Resonance, Grim Embrace, Deadlock, and Ruin. To win matches, this is no doubt the best way to go with the full slowdown. It's also very much used in competitive play, but what I suggest to make the game a lot more fun is to use what we call the catch-up build. This will also allow you to practice a lot of shots and just get better. And if you just focus on these shots, eventually you'll be only trick-shotting the whole game, basically. Full orb builds use perks such as Barbecue and Chili, Bitter Murmur, Lethal Pursuer, I'm All Ears, Darkness Revealed, and Floods of Rage to track survivors and try to snowball by getting down as quickly as possible and creating so much pressure that the survivors will start playing altruistically and naturally abandon working on generators. Other honorable mentions for good Huntress perks are Iron Maiden, which boosts your base kit for your hatchets, reloading speed, No Way Out, Gearhead, Blood Warden, Nurse Colin, and also Pop Goes the Weasel. Feel free to experiment with the add-ons as long as you don't use the ones that change your base kit, as it will mess with your muscle memory. Great add-ons for a beginner would be the Deer Skin Gloves, which allow you to reload 20% faster, allowing survivors less distance, and you get a lot more chase time, which is always positive. The Haste add-ons are okay, but I much prefer using the Oak Haft and the Bandage Haft, which combined reduce your hatchet throw cooldowns by 30%. This lets you follow up your first hatchet throw really quickly. The best add-ons in my opinion are Glowing Concoction, which will let you see survivors' auras after hitting with a hatchet for 5 extra seconds, allowing you for some crazy snipes. Wooden Fox is another top tier Huntress add-on since it will make you undetectable after reloading for 30 seconds, allowing you to sneak up on survivors to get some really nasty quick downs. Venomous Concoction is a fantastic anti-exhaustion add-on that can really shorten chases with survivors by exhausting them upon hitting them with a hatchet. Goodbye life and goodbye Die Hard. Now I want to talk about something really important that you should know when you're playing Huntress. Hitboxes. Alright, so here's what a survivor hitbox looks like. Your character's hitbox is always upright, and the easiest way to hit your hatchets is by aiming at the butt of the survivor, since this is basically the center of the hitbox. As survivors run, a good part of their body sticks out of the hitbox, and this is why sometimes it may seem that you will hit a survivor, but that part of their body is actually sticking out of the hitbox. It's important to note that despite whichever survivor you're chasing, all their hitboxes are the exact same, so it doesn't matter if it's the tallest survivor or the smallest survivor, their hitboxes stay the same. Also, when they slouch, their hitboxes stay the exact same, which is why this is possible. Or this. Now, moving on to some basic aiming techniques. So you may be wondering which is better, throwing a hatchet first and then using an M1, or using M1 then a hatchet, or throwing 2 hatchets back to back. Hatchets actually have less cooldown than basic attacks, therefore using both hatchets consecutively is the fastest and most efficient way of downing survivors. Once you've adjusted your aim in a survivor's general direction, if they are in front of you, try keeping your aim still and adjust your aim with your movement instead. Now, patience is key. Hold that hatchet until when survivors cross the center of your screen, letting them walk right into your hatchet, just like this. A lot of times, survivors will try predicting when you're going to throw your hatchet, but this is what you should do, and this is what I prefer to do. Wait for their juke, and then you shoot. As you get more comfortable while playing Huntress, you will start noticing patterns in survivors' movements. Survivors tend to give off a lot of info. Maybe you notice they're dodging to the left a lot. So what you can do is take that into account and make a prediction shot to the left next time they juke. Something that tends to happen to a lot of Huntress players is that they raise their hatchets and throw way too fast. Instead, you should try being patient and fully charging your hatchets. This can be really good since the longer you hold it, the more nervous the survivor will get, and the more mistakes they will do. Also, a fully charged hatchet will be much harder to dodge. Often, survivors will know if they won't make a window or a pallet, so what they will try to do instead, they will fake vaulting, and they'll fake also dropping pallets. They will basically, what they will do is try to move out of the way, make you miss, so they could just vault over the pallet or the window. So now what I recommend is you basically, what I do, often is I wait an extra second. When I know it can hit the shot, I just wait an extra second. And often it pays off because they juke and I could just hit them. Something smart survivors will do is try to fake the window vault and bait your hatchet. And then just simply dodge into another direction. Going often, for example, at shack, towards the pallet and just out of your line of sight as soon as you miss the hatchet. So what I like to do is just hold up my hatchet and keep track of where they could go possibly, and just be ready for the fake. When survivors are running to a destination and you could predict their pathing, try aiming slightly ahead of them and throwing your hatchet ahead of them to compensate for the distance they will be making. Remember to use surroundings against survivors. More experienced survivors will guess where and when you're about to throw a hatchet and juke out of the way and get out of your line of sight as quickly as possible. Now, if they're hugging an object while looping and can only dodge to one direction, you can safely guess that they're going to attempt dodging in that direction. We can use that to our advantage like so. Now, it is crucial as a Huntress, since you're at a slower speed and at a disadvantage compared to other killers when it comes to movement speed, you need to keep your loops as tight as possible. Otherwise, it will just keep gaining turns and turns around objects and make you waste a ton of time. Often, Huntresses see survivors going for vaults and they ready the hatchets and pre-throw too predictably at a window. Instead, what I recommend is that you wait until they're stuck in the animation before throwing. When they are stuck in the animation and you know that they committed to the action of vaulting, you will see their item disappear from their hand if they're carrying one. Something a lot of Huntresses struggle with as well is when a survivor gets real up and close to you and desperately tries to make you miss a hatchet. The worst thing you want to do, obviously, is to miss the hatchet. So all you have to do to line up your shot, just simply back up so that you have a better vision of them so you can land the shot, or just simply go for an M1. Additionally, by keeping your hatchet up in the air while you're chasing after a survivor, you can make them rotate to weaker loops and do what we call zoning. When you start a match, survivors will try and assess how good of a Huntress you are, and they will greed pallets in hopes that you'll go for your hatchet, and you'll lose more distance when you raise your hatchet, and they just keep on going around the same loop again and again, buying time for their team. Now, there's an easy way to deal with this. The only thing you have to do is just don't respect pallet. Just go for the basic attack every time at the beginning of the matches. Now, a lot of the time, this is just going to result in a free hit. If you're following a survivor and they're just pre-dropping pallets, and you sense the survivor's panicking, you can easily just punish this by raising the hatchet and just release it as they're stuck in the dropping animation, resulting in a free hit. If you raise your hatchet slightly late during the pallet drop animation, you can still throw your hatchet right at the edge of where you think they're going to be running to get to safety, and you'll still often get a hit. Now, this next tip applies to basically every single killer in the game. Alright, so you shouldn't be mindlessly just breaking pallets, and what I mean by that is just that you should pay attention to your surroundings. If a survivor is waiting for you to break a pallet before changing loops, and you see a safe structure behind them, then you should consider pushing the survivor around the loop to the other side before breaking the pallet, so that they have a dead zone behind them instead of a big, safe building they could just keep running forever and ever. Red stain manipulation. Alright, you should try being unpredictable with your hatchets. More often than not, you can catch a survivor off guard and land a free hit. A tactic you could try around tall loops is red stain manipulation, aka moonwalking, as this will sometimes catch survivors off guard on some loops and land a free M1 or gain some distance and catch up to a survivor. Experiment with red stain manipulation, but just don't overdo it. Some survivors are just really hard to mind game, and if you keep trying it, you'll just end up tripping yourself. So if you see a survivor doesn't fall for it after 1 or 2 times, then just commit to the chase, or just go for another chase. Sometimes you have no choice but to be opportunistic if you want to win. Since Huntress is slower than most killers, you don't want to waste too much of your time traveling across the map without a plan. You need to be aware that you may need to let some gens go. Start by cutting the map in half and try keeping track of 4 gens on one side of the map so that you can patrol more efficiently. You should be creating dead zones around those generators by getting rid of any pallets at strong loops and instead only leaving unsafe loops for survivors. You should also hook survivors on your side of the map. That way you could keep track of your gens, as well as make it much harder for survivors to get out of your dead zones, resulting in shorter chases and more efficient chases. That being said, I'm not saying to camp gens, but you should try to keep an eye on your side of the map between chases if possible. Avoid unnecessarily traveling from opposite ends. Be ready to sacrifice some gens for the greater good. Huntress is a killer that can snowball very easily because of her high damage output in the game. A technique used by Huntresses for a long time is to down one survivor and immediately chase down a second survivor. If they are close, of course. After downing the second survivor, you can hook the first. Remember to keep an eye on your slugs so you don't lose pressure. You can use altruism against survivors to immobilize the rest of the team and get them all off gens. If a survivor tries to commit to a save alone, you can easily down them because of the short hatchet cooldown, and it will have to trade hooks continuously with their teammates, making basements a death trap. The only way to improve your hatchets is simply using them more. For example, you might be able to get easy downs by simply going for a hatchet than using an M1. But I'd like to challenge you to try and play some games only using your hatchets. Think about it this way. Every hatchet you throw will strengthen your muscle memory and will get your results inevitably through practice. If you're trying to improve, you should focus on kills, but instead, start focusing on your accuracy with your hatchets. Whenever you miss a shot, I want you to analyze what you've done and try to do it better next time. Maybe you threw it a little bit too high this time. So maybe next time, just try bringing it down a little bit, and then you'll make that shot. Make sure to apply what you learn, and you'll see drastic changes in your gameplay. The more accurate you are with your hatchets, the faster the downs. The faster the downs, the faster you win. It's just one big cycle. Also, it's just much more fun and gratifying when you hit some sick shots. Remember to be kind with yourself and keep practicing so you can get that muscle memory down. When going for window shots, you should try aiming at head level. This shot takes some imagination, also combined with listening skills. Depending on the speed at which survivors are running or walking at, often as a huntress, you'll need to develop the timing of your hatchets. I like to imagine the survivor's aura based on the speed and direction they were going last time I saw them, before they broke the line of sight. This will take some time, but it is honestly one of the most essential skills to develop while playing Huntress. The principle for threading the needle is relatively the same as with window shots when it comes to timing. The more you gain knowledge on certain maps, the more you'll notice holes in which you can fit your hatchet through. And you'll just gain more opportunities for ending chases quickly and taking survivors on by surprise. Here are some examples of some shots in unexpected areas. While you're chasing survivors, you should always check your surroundings for opportunities to catch them off guard. When survivors run behind certain objects, they often don't expect you to be able to hit these kind of shots. By throwing an uncharged hatchet, you can get just enough of an arc to interrupt them in their path by carving right over the object. It might take some practice to find just the right height and build the muscle memory for it, but oh boy, these shots can get pretty addicting. All right, we got that one. So the first and most important thing to land cross-map hatchets is that you need to seize all opportunities. If you see an opening for a snipe, I want you to take it. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. But do be mindful of objects blocking your hatchets, such as trees or walls. Goddamn trees. You need to know the center of your screen well, and if you're having a hard time at long range, then I recommend that you turn down your sensitivity just a little bit so you can make those small adjustments. Some examples of great aura revealing perks for hitting these long range hatchets are Lethal Pursuer, Darkness Revealed, Barbecue and Chilling, and Bitter Murmur. Along with my personal favorite, Floods of Rage. To learn how high you need to adjust to hit your hatchets at cross-map distance, try practicing hitting survivors on exit gate switches. I found this to be very helpful. As daunting as landing one of these impressive orbital shots may seem, there are actually some simple tricks that I will be teaching you today that will help you hit your first orbitals and many more consistently. First, make sure your FOV is set to either 91 or 92. This is crucial for hitting orbitals accurately because the value changes the distance that the aura of the generator will change, which having it at a specific distance is crucial to land orbitals consistently. Now first, we find an unsuspecting survivor on a generator. And then we walk forward until we see the aura of the generator get bigger. You will see some kind of wire-looking thing appear on the bottom of the generator. This is the precise distance you will need to be to hit someone either at the front, left, or right side of the generator. Next, you want to put the letter W from the word throw at the bottom of your screen directly on the survivor. Now all you need to do is make sure you're looking at the generator from a straight angle. This will make shots much easier and more accurate to land. Throwing at an angle will take practice to master and will require muscle memory. Look directly all the way up and release a hatchet that's not fully charged. Be careful not to accidentally mess up the alignment with the survivor. This might take a little bit more practice on controller, and it might be a little bit hard, but it is definitely still doable. On PC, you can simply just create a keybind to look directly straight up, making it a little bit easier than controller. An important thing to note is that trees or other objects can oftentimes make these shots a little bit tricky by blocking them. You'll learn to absolutely despise trees as a Huntress. Unfortunately, we all go through it. If there is a wall between you and the generator also, it can get in the way of the arc and it will make you miss the shot. So you'll need to reposition, keeping this in mind. Do remember that any object that's randomly in the way between you and the survivor can halt your hatchets as it is arcing down onto the survivor. Becoming a great Huntress player takes a lot of practice and positive learning attitude. You should take as many shots as possible while learning to develop your muscle memory and add new skills to your repertoire. If you want to watch my guide on how to get orbitals easily on console and PC, then feel free to click this video right here. If you want to see more content like this, then make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing perhaps if you want to see more content like this in the future. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you have a great rest of your day.